Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of The Nation Wants to Know, where we look at the issues which are of tremendous significance. We get the key newsmakers relevant from a national as well as often a global perspective. The biggest global story right now is the Iran-Israel conflict, which has even more potential, in my view, of quickly escalating into a global conflict than Ukraine or even the ongoing Israeli counter-response in the Gaza Strip. Now, yes, you all know, viewers, this started with the Israelis hitting a consulate building in Damascus, Syria on the 1st of April, killing 13 people. And then Iran hit back with firing a series of missiles and drones at Israel, which caused very limited damage because of Israel's very expensive Iron Dome interception capability. But the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has faced and continues to face very big pressure politically to escalate. And so he hit back at the ancient Iranian city of Isfahan yesterday. As we are informed, there is massive back-channel diplomacy going on all sides, and there are two clear views. One side, the dominant view, is very worried about the cost of escalation between Iran and Israel and feels that this will not be limited to the two countries. So they are very concerned about the cost of escalation, whether on the situation in the Middle East or the cost of oil and global instability, and this side is calling for calming things down as soon as possible. And then there is another side which feels it is time to use this opportunity to open a full-on attack on Iran. And that side is led by several players in government as well as people outside of government, like my guest tonight, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. He joins me tonight from Washington. Your Royal Highness, welcome to The Nation Wants to Know. It's good to have you on the program. And if I can refer to you henceforth as Mr. Pahlavi, Mr. Pahlavi has been calling for regime change in Iran. And he feels that this is the time to push the envelope. And so that takes me to my first question to you, Mr. Pahlavi. Why would you want the world, led by the United States, Israel and others, to push the envelope when you are aware that that could lead to further global instability, which is the last thing that the world needs right now?
Let me begin by explaining the fact that I have been critical overall of a basic flaw in the foreign policy of Western governments in their dealing with the current regime occupying my homeland. From the very beginning, there was an expectation of behavior change, and all the policies implemented, including sanctions, were with the aim to force the regime back to negotiation and understanding. The very premise of expecting behavior change from a system that in its entirety, in its DNA, in its entire reason for existence, was to export a religious ideology in the region and beyond, it cannot coexist in the world where democracies, where human rights and liberties are respected, for them to be able to coexist with their ideology at the same time. Therefore, all these years we've seen attempts to try and reach some compromise, thinking that the regime could reform itself, and in the meantime, the Iranian people have been suffering and suffering with no change in sight. My argument about why a change of regime in Iran will be in the best interest of the Iranian people, who are the first people to ask for it, by the way. It's not a matter of a foreign government deciding our fate. It's the Iranian people who want that. But they demand the world to support them, because this regime, as long as it exists, it will continue to create the kind of problems we've seen all these decades, which means not only repression at home against its own citizens, but aggression abroad, using its proxies like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like Islamic Jihad, like the Houthis, to disrupt world commerce, to meddle into the affairs of neighboring countries, and most importantly, in the recent clash that we have seen. This regime does not desire what's best for the Iranian people. It is simply trying to ascertain itself. And if the world wants to put away once and for all the problems that were caused by this regime, there's only one solution left. If we don't want escalation, if we do not want military confrontation, but a change that comes from within at the hand of the Iranian people themselves. This is where the world can make a key decision of finally helping the Iranian people this time as opposed to insisting on negotiating with a regime that will never be willing to come to terms with the values that
Mr. Pahlavi,
the free world stands for.
I understand. I understand, but I'm sure that I'm sure you wouldn't disagree with me that the Iranians would have done their own geostrategic analysis of the situation. You mentioned the fact that Iran has been working through, its proxies, the three H's: Hezbollah, Houthis, and Hamas. But isn't it possible that Iran itself is a proxy for other global powers? Because Iran on its own would not have dared to carry out the kind of attack it did as a counter-response on Israel without having planned the grand strategy of what would follow. So perhaps they are also working for someone else's interests beyond their own.
By the way, Arnab, I would very much appreciate if people like yourselves as a member of the media and other colleagues of yours refer to the situation not as Iran, meaning the people of Iran, and instead say the regime. The Iranian people are very sensitive about the fact that they keep mentioning Iran, and we as Iranians do not stand 1 second with what this regime is doing. So let's call it the Islamic regime and what it's doing, or the Islamic Republic. It is true, they have been pretty much held in power by means of their dependence on some foreign powers. Example, Russia. For a long time, the Russians have been helping the regime with its military and intelligence forces. The current Moscow-Tehran axis, as Tehran is helping Putin fight his war against Ukraine, is an example. As such, clearly, the regime has also some partners that have a different viewpoint as far as the geopolitics of the region is concerned. However, I think the majority of the countries around the globe realize that in the long term, nobody will benefit from such instability. It's not good for security. It's not good for commerce. And the root cause, again, is the regime disrupting all of this. So regardless of whether or not this regime may have some allies, but it has far many more adversaries insofar as the free world is concerned. This is where the Iranian people stand together with the free world against a regime that is repressing them and is not offering them a chance to self-determination. I believe that once Iran is freed, you will see a completely different picture and demeanor as it relates to regional peace and cooperation and our relationship worldwide with anybody that's willing to respect our independence and sovereignty.
You've been talking about regime change. What do you have in mind? I mean, are you talking about a full-fledged invasion of Iran? Would that be right? If America is very concerned about sovereignty of other nations?
It's not a matter of invasion. I don't know why you are.
So what do you mean by regime change? Then how do you see that coming into effect?
Well, it's a domestic liberation movement at the hand of the Iranian people. It's a little bit like putting more pressure on the regime by helping the Iranian people directly. Look, what happened in Poland with Lech Walesa and Solidarity? What happened in South Africa to put an end to apartheid? None of this was as a result of foreign invasion. It was a matter of support directly to the dissidents, to the activists, to the civil society of those countries, giving them an equal footing to be able to have a chance to bring pressure from within. The mechanism of change of regime in Iran is not going to be at the hand of any foreign intervention. In fact, it is my red line. I have always been extremely opposed to any kind of military confrontation or intervention against my country. But I believe that through civil disobedience, through mass protests and labor strikes, we can paralyze the regime and force it to collapse. And following that will be an interim phase by which we should have a constitutional process whereby the Iranian people can elect their representative to a constitutional assembly to debate Iran's future, the constitution, the former regime, the content, and everything else that is at play. In other words, to have true self-determination. Right now, India is experiencing, as the largest democracy in the world, a process of election. And how much we value the fact that without such freedoms and the ability to choose, citizens are completely voiceless. That is the current situation in Iran. That needs to change. 85 million Iranians have to have an opportunity to speak for themselves. And this is why free countries, particularly democracies, need to support them in this struggle against a regime that has completely taken those freedoms away from Iranians.
But you know, you're talking about basically uprising on the ground, on the streets of Iran, and people had expected that in the fallout of the Mahsa Amini case. There were protests on the ground which started almost immediately. I think it was the autumn of 2022. You had yourself called for protests and mobilization at that point of time. But it didn't really take off beyond a point. So why would you think the situation is different now when it would be seen to be the world against the... Yes, yeah. Why would the situation be different now?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that for some ingredients being missing, you cannot get to the final result that one wants to obtain. The Iranian people have done their part. They've done all they could under tremendous duress and repression at home. The very same time Iran is waging war against Israel, the regime is cracking down on Iranian women on the streets of Iran. It's maintaining its instrument of repression. But the brave Iranian people, today's Gen Z of Iran, the young generation, stand against them. They still are continuing the fight. What is absent is two things. There still is not a clear and strong leadership from key Western countries to support this movement. And number two, obviously, there has to be the kind of leadership that makes this happen. While the Mahsa Amini Women Life Freedom Movement was certainly a revolutionary state of protest, but the mechanisms of change have to also be in place. This doesn't happen automatically. We need to be able to work with elements within the country. They need to be able to connect with the outside world. They need to have their representation on the international scene so the world understand exactly how and through what means they can be of help and support this movement. Then we can have a legitimate chance to succeed. But if you have, while you have such a revolution on the streets of Iran, certain governments who are bent on appeasement, who release billions of dollars of money into the hand of a regime that is not going to spend it on the starving Iranian people, but instead spending on its proxies all across the world, how do you expect change to actually happen? The will for change has to come finally in the mind of the outside world. Now, having said that, I've always said to my fellow compatriots, we cannot depend on anybody else but ourselves. However, it will be far simpler and less costly to us if we had the tacit support of the free world. This is what we need right now. That is the missing element. With that in play, a lot will change.
But you know, now let me draw you into the real politics of it. We clearly understand where you're coming from on this matter, but you know, peace is important. The world at this point of time is not crying for more conflict. Less conflict is required, de-escalation is required. The world has been through COVID, then Ukraine, and then, as you're aware, the situation on the Gaza Strip. And all those calling for peace would say, Mr. Pahlavi, that just let's keep the peace with Iran. Because the geographical position of Iran is extremely important. We need to keep the peace and the status quo on the Straits of Hormuz. We need to make sure that the Iranians and the Houthis are kept under control, that business is on as usual. Let's settle things down. Let's settle Ukraine. Let's settle Gaza before we open up another front, however much we may disagree with the Iranian regime. And therefore, I'm sure you're aware that, you know, there needs to be peace on the Persian Gulf. Iranians have been seizing ships. Recently, they seized British ships as well. You know what the Houthis have been doing. And Iran will leverage its geographical location to some extent when it negotiates with the rest of the world. These are all the factors that come in when things like the US-Iranian nuclear agreement, which had been signed, which is defunct now, came into effect. I mean, there's a sort of practical spirit. Yes, we don't agree, but we are no longer in the George W. Bush world of the axis of evil. We've got to learn to work even with our enemies. What would you say to them, Mr. Pahlavi?
Well, I believe that freedom is tantamount, and whenever a citizen's freedom is taken away from them, they have every right to ask for change. And if the world is copping out behind the excuse of maintaining the status quo simply because they don't have a vision for something that could be better, simply because they don't realize that it is as a result of this regime that we have instability, you expect the very same regime that has caused all this mayhem to be an element you can depend on to calm down, to bring peace all of a sudden? From the day the regime set foot in Iran, it had as an agenda to export its ideology. It became adversely confrontational vis-à-vis the Arab countries in the Persian Gulf. It started antagonizing its regional neighbors. It started exporting this ideology in the four corners of the world. And as a result, we have what we have now. I find it very surprising that after 45 years and the proof of the behavior of this regime, and as I said earlier, the expectation is maybe today they will be reasonable and finally come to terms. That expectation is wrong. You have just wasted time to a point that now we are facing more challenges. Now, the only way, again, I repeat, the only way we can, for good, eliminate every element that is leading to this instability, which is tied directly to the nature of this regime, is to get rid of it. Again, at the hand and at the ask of the Iranian people, because the Iranian people are not going to put up with this any longer. They are ready to change. So the choice is very simple. You can either ignore the Iranian people's right to self-determination and freedom, a nation that wants to be at peace in the world, that does not have any reason to be antagonistic versus the Israelis or the Arabs or anybody else in our neighborhood, but are hostage. They're the first hostage of a regime that is doing precisely all of these negative deeds. Now, what is the price to pay? Is the price to achieve ultimately a liberation more expensive than dealing with this regime every day in terms of, as you said it yourself, escalation, disruption of commerce and maritime traffic? Is that cost less than the cost of change for Iran and the consequences of that? I challenge, therefore, those who claim that, no, we have to be using realpolitik as an argument. I think that's basically the language of weak leadership. Look, the world changed twice, at least in contemporary history, where we've seen that as a result of that strong leadership, things did change for the better. Example, Second World War. Example, Roosevelt and Churchill vis-a-vis Hitler during the Second World War. Later on, towards the end of the Soviet Union, you had Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, two strong leaders that brought an end to the Soviet Empire. The same kind of leadership is required today. In the absence of leadership, I can hear this argument float more and more, but it does not excuse the fact that we should address the real question and take the bull by the horn. We have to do our part as Iranians, but the world needs to stand with us. That's the choice they have to make. They either side with the people of Iran, or they continue siding with this regime.
Are you saying that Are you saying that Biden is a weak leader who is appeasing Khamenei? That he does not want a bigger war to break out because there's a US election coming up, and he doesn't want to be seen diverting assets from Ukraine, leading to a bigger mess. I mean, you may be more open with me on this. Are you saying that Biden is appeasing Khamenei, that he's a weak leader? The Americans are showing weak leadership?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, the result is right in front of us. The regime had access to almost $100 billion worth of oil revenue that they should not have had should the oil sanction had been implemented correctly. That extra cash, that extra money was something that, again, not only made it easier for the regime to spend it on its proxies, including the recent conflicts, and all the drones and missiles had to be paid for from somewhere. That's the extra cash that the regime should not have had in the first place, but it did. But it's also something that emboldens such regimes. Look, let me give you another statistics away from war and conflict and missiles. If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today. Why? Because that kind of leadership and strength basically makes such regimes think twice before they do anything, whether it's at home or abroad. I do say that vis-a-vis the fact that we are dealing with two powerful countries that have a lot of influence and say to what is happening in the region, Russia and China, what is the counterpart doing? I think many of our friends in the region are growing frustrated for their lack of resolve and indecisiveness and appeasement. And that frustration could create some reconsideration of their policies and alignment. But I don't think we need to get that far. I think there's still an opportunity to resolve the issue. But I can tell you the main problem remains the regime. And the world has to understand that fighting the tentacles is no longer a solution. You have to go for the eye of the octopus. And the eye of the octopus is Tehran, that controls all of these tentacles all over the place. Again, let me repeat so I'm very clear, and I'm not misunderstood or misinterpreted. I'm not calling for any foreign military attack or intervention. I'm telling you that the natural army in place are the people of Iran. The people of Iran deserve to have the support of the outside world in order to liberate themselves. That is the best investment you can make for peace, security, and long-term economic stability at the hand of a liberated people who are on your side, as opposed to a regime that simply wants to impose a modern-day religious caliphate and dominate the region and the world. That's the two choices we have.
Mr. Pahlavi, let me take you on your terminology there, where you say the eye of the octopus is Tehran. Now, the regime in Tehran, are you sure about that? It would also be contended that the eye of the octopus could be Russia. It could be argued that the eye of the octopus could be China, in a way. It could be argued that Russia is trying to open a new front. And it would further be argued that it is against American interests or the interests of the West to play into Russia's hands by opening a new front, especially at this time of political sensitivity in the US as well. What would you say to that? That it is not in the long-term interests of America to get drawn or to let this escalate. It is in Russia's interest to let this escalate and watch as America opens more and more fronts to its, to its own detriment.
I don't know why it is that you insist so much on using militaristic terms and fronts and deployments as if we were talking about military confrontation and escalation. That's not what I'm proposing. What I'm talking about is the liberation of a nation that is under siege by a regime that has kept them hostage. It's a process of liberation. It's not escalation or opening fronts that we're talking about. I think the world today is savvy enough, whether you're French, American, Canadian, or Japanese, to understand the value of the independence and freedom. I mean, India went through an independence movement to liberate itself. If that is not as valuable that they're willing to put everything on the line for it, then why should Iranians deserve any less than Indians, or for that matter, Americans, or people in Sweden or in Australia? Liberty and freedom is tantamount to bringing us more guarantee of stability, because democracies don't go at war to one another. The fact that this regime is in conflict, because it's not a democracy, it's a religious dictatorship. And ultimately, that is the problem. Now, would China benefit from it? Would Russia benefit from it? Perhaps. But the root cause of the problem is not Moscow or Beijing. It is the regime that has occupied my country, and it is based in Iran. That's why I point to Tehran as the problem. And that's why the solution is going to be within Iran itself. I'm not asking for Moscow or Beijing or Washington to determine the fate of the Iranian people, but to ask themselves the question, what is ultimately the vision that a free Iran will have vis-à-vis the whole world? It's not going to be aligned only with the West. It's not going to be aligned only with the East. It's going to be working with whoever respects our sovereignty and freedom, and will work with them, with any of these countries who would like to have a better relationship with Iran. This regime is not providing that opportunity, but a free Iran will.
I understand the reason why you disagree with my use of what you are calling militaristic terms, which I may only describe as the practical situation on the ground right now, because you are in Washington. You had urged the US and Israel earlier not to fall into what you called a trap by escalating their disputes with the Iranian government into a military conflict, and that was in 2017. But as of today, you would agree with me, sir, that is exactly what appears to be playing out, and therefore I think there is a distinct possibility that Iran, if it realizes that the conflict has broken out. Now let me give you a slightly elaboration of why I'm saying this to you. I'll take just a minute. Your Royal Highness, Iran would have a good sense of whether the West can escalate this right now. And if the West comes to a conclusion that it does not want to escalate it right now, then the Iranians have the upper hand in any negotiation. Should such a negotiation happen through back channels or otherwise, either through open dialogue or through secret contact or clandestine diplomacy, which you know does happen, in that case, could it be possible that the end game for the regime in Tehran is to renegotiate and reopen the nuclear deal, which is presently in tatters? Because they need that nuclear deal, they need the sanctions lifted, they need the economy to pick up, and they can feel that in turn for agreeing to de-escalate, they might want to take the benefit of resuming a more working relationship with the rest of the world, and using every leverage that they have, including their maritime interests in the Straits of Hormuz, as a negotiating chip. Your response to that?
My job is not to defend the regime's interests. My job is to defend the Iranian people's interests. And what is in conflict with the Iranian people's interests is the survival and continuing existence of a regime that has deprived us of our freedom and our liberties. Therefore, I will challenge and I will stand vis-à-vis any entity, government, foreigners who would think that the status quo should prevail and the Iranian people don't deserve any better and they should be sacrificed in the interest of realpolitik, or as you say, avoiding any kind of escalation. I would not stand for a second and accept that premise that it's okay to let the Iranian people continue to be victims of this regime while the regime is trying to play some kind of strategic compromise with the world. Understand that most of its behavior has been not as a position of strength, but actually weakness. A regime that is strong does not repress its citizenry. A regime that is strong doesn't, after 45 years worth of passage of time, still continue to be aggressive, meddling in the affairs of neighboring states, unless you are willing to say, we have to put up with this religious dictatorship. That's what it is. The world has to accept it as a matter of fact, and therefore we should throw in the white towel and go home. Yeah, of course, that is an eventual possibility, but is it the right moral position to take? What happened to liberty? What happened to freedom? What happened to human rights? What happened to all those values that I believe the Western world has not abandoned, at least as of yet? This is also something to consider, not just an economic issue, not just the kind of elements that you pointed. A lot more is at stake. And therefore, I would still argue that the people of Iran would be able to tell the whole world and demonstrate to the whole world that unlike this regime that is constantly blackmailing you, that is taking ransom money to liberate hostages, and you pay the price for that, and is going to continue to be emboldened as a result. And therefore, it is not by appeasement that it will reduce the conflict. It will be no guarantee that the regime will not continue to do more of what it's done already, because it has proven to do that, especially when it faces weak leadership on the other side. So I point back to what is my proposition to the world. You have never, ever, until this moment, even assumed that it is plausible that this regime will no longer be around. It is plausible that it can collapse as a result of internal pressure. Then, do you have a plan for that? Do you have a plan for that alternative? If you don't, you'll be in real dire difficulty. Better yet, start thinking about what that alternative could be and why it is ultimately in your best interest to do that. I'm not asking for the world to come to our rescue for our sake. I'm actually arguing that it is in their own interest to do that, because we're both benefiting from the disappearance of an element that has been causing all of this turmoil and disruption and escalation. And I don't think that this regime even understands realpolitik, because when you say realpolitik, it means you are a realist and reasonable. Again, a real world that is realistic is expecting the same behavior of a regime that is not reasonable, that is not realistic, that is purely ideological. And that's why it will never come to terms or change its behavior. Herein lies the fundamental argument that I have vis-a-vis the world that says, well, if we are practical, maybe they are practical too. Are they?
No. Well, I mean, what if the price of oil go through the roof? What if the global economy tanks? What if the Straits of Hormuz are paralyzed? Why would the world pay the price for the regime change, however important in Iran, as you are arguing?
Through the roof.
I'm not just talking about Iranian oil, I'm also talking about the imbalance in global trade, the possible blocking of certain maritime routes, and the consequences of an escalated conflict.
As I said, the more the regime stands in place, the more harm it could do. And if you think that it is through blackmail and it's through nuclear deterrence of an undemocratic regime that the world will feel safer, or for that matter, our neighborhood will feel safer, I don't know where we're leading with that. I mean, can you imagine that if this regime actually negotiates a nuclear deal, why would it want to pursue a nuclear arsenal in the first place if its intention was peaceful usage of the energy? Why did we not start continuing the policy
that's because the sanctions, they would say that's because the sanctions came back and the Americans turned their back on the nuclear deal as well.
I'm sorry, I was talking, I couldn't hear your
that
question.
was,
Could you repeat,
tit for tat. No, I'm sorry, but so I was saying that the argument of the Iranian regime could be, the argument, I repeat myself, the argument of the Iranian regime could be that was a tit for tat. The Americans went back, the sanctions came back, and they went back to their nuclear pursuits. But now, possibly, they may want to reopen that conversation.
So basically, we should be open to proliferation, and many countries in the region will also pursue a nuclear program to equal that of Iran. Where are we going with this? Are we going to talk about a whole region having access to WMDs? Is that really the future we are painting for the Middle East? All because there is a regime that is provoking and forcing everybody's hand in that direction? Or can we eliminate the problem so we wouldn't have to start considering proliferation? So the Saudis build their bomb, or the UAE build their bombs, or the Egyptians build their bombs, and pretty soon everybody has a bomb, and then what? I mean, seriously, if that's the direction the world wants to take, I cannot have a logical answer to that. But you can eliminate every aspect of the problem that threatens maritime traffic, that could be a nuclear threat, that could be an existential threat to countries like Israel, that is sponsoring terrorism, that is interfering in the affairs of governments in the region, from Syria to Iraq to Lebanon. I don't think the world is prepared to continue living along with this kind of a regime, especially when it is extremely fragile at home, that the majority of its citizenry is against it, and they stand ready to save themselves, but they need an extra assistance from the world that is, instead of helping them, are still throwing them under the bus, insisting, as you argued, on the status quo, hoping that maybe through that we can all tone down the escalation. I think this regime has proven that if it wanted to maintain stability, why would it do what it did? Why would it support a terrorist group? Why would it attack Israel, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, but the world is also changing in a multilateral world, Mr. Pahlavi. Why should it be the concern of the West what happens across the world? Why should the West look upon itself as the savior of every part of the world? And we all know what happened when you refer to the WMD case. You know what happened last time when WMDs were used as as a good excuse to carry out a full-blown invasion. So now isn't the world changing? What if Chinese were to say that we want to liberate another part of the world? What if the Indians were to say we want to liberate another part of the world? Invasions of sovereignty, either which way, are not good. And so if we were to go back to the attack by the Israelis on the consulate in Damascus, that is still sovereign territory. That was a violation of another country's sovereign territory. Upon an intelligence input or upon a perception of intelligence of Israel, My question being, why should it be that the West or the forces supported by the West, including Israel, should feel that they have some kind of a moral superiority in terms of intervening to help people across other parts of the world? In the changing dynamics across the world, which is multilateral, perhaps that would not be the right way to look at it anymore.
Well, first of all, you mentioned the word sovereignty several times. Well, the Iranian people currently are not enjoying sovereignty because their vote doesn't count. They're being repressed, muzzles. We have political prisoners. We have executions. If we are looking to the outside world, the Iranians are looking to the West, not to Moscow or to Beijing, because at least in the West, there seems to be a principle of liberty and freedom and democracy. I would not compare India to China. India is a democracy. So if you think that as a democratic country, it is in your best interest to promote democracies, especially for a nation that wants to have it, and you would call that intervention, I don't call it intervention. I call it a moral duty. People who are free should help other peoples be free. That's the premise. Now, is it a multilateral world? Yes, it is. But I choose to work with free countries. I choose to work with Western democracies. I choose to work with everybody who values the principles of freedom and liberty and would be defending human rights as a matter of moral obligation. It's as simple as that. Now, if there are other countries that do not have the same principles in view and are, in fact, interfering in Iran by not letting the Iranian people achieve freedom, that is some kind of interference in itself. You are not allowing for a nation, or you are in a way interfering with their ability to free themselves. And freedom is, I think, the paramount issue here. Otherwise, if it's just a matter of maintaining dictatorships in place and justifying it, something that happened the last century a lot of times, the world has changed. But I think today social media points to us that many nations around the world, regardless of their ethnic background or religious aspects or composition, freedom is the universal language. Freedom is a universal ask. And which is why we have seen that in all these recent demonstrations of solidarity, people around the world stood with the Iranian people as they were calling for their freedom. Now, that's the ask of the people in the world. What governments do, let's ask them. Let's put them on the spot and say, why don't you, in fact, support these movements? But I think the question of freedom is not going to be, for me, an element subject to negotiation. Freedom is paramount and tantamount. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm fighting for, regardless of the challenges we face.
But why would you want sanctions which would affect the lives of your own people? You're calling for further sanctions on the regime in Iran, and you're going on and saying that, of course, you know, this is not your exact words here, that this is not the war of the Iranian people, it is Ali Khamenei's war. But my question to you is, why would you want sanctions which would make it more and more difficult for your own people, for people in hospitals in Iran, for children to get the food and the medicines they need in Iran, and for the old and elderly people needing treatment to be denied the access to medicines and treatment that they would need? Would you say that even their suffering would be justified towards the larger purpose which you're pushing for?
Basically, you're parroting the argument of the apologists for the regime and those who always have said that sanctions doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look, the regime is not spending money on the Iranian people. Do you think that the $100 billion they received was spent on any school or hospitals or helping the people who are starving on the streets of Iran? They did get that money recently, didn't they? Was it spent? Was a cent of it spent on Iranian, despite the fact that we have sanctions? It wasn't. This is simply money in the hand of the regime. And the reason why sanctions are important, it's not because it affects the people of Iran. It's because it's going to restrain the regime to have more means to support its war machine of repression at home and conflict abroad. Now, of course, sanctions in and of itself is not sufficient. You need to have, parallel to this, a policy of support. these two ingredients combined could put an end to this regime as a result of change from within. But that hasn't done. So if there's a continuation of economic malaise in Iran, it's not because of the sanctions, it's because of the regime has not been truly challenged so that we can get rid of it. Once we are rid of it, immediately the economic situation in Iran could improve. Everybody knows that. Iranians are understanding of that. How many Iranians, despite the fact that are in fuel lines, despite the fact that they are starving, are objecting to any kind of pressure on the regime? Only the regime and its elements say that, not the Iranian people. It all depends who you're listening to. Are you listening to the regime propagandists, or are you listening to the Iranian people? If you listen to the Iranian people, you will see that the majority of them understand the reason why this regime needs to be sanctioned. Because it is under appeasement that the regime silently executes more people, brutalizes more women, keeps more people in jail and dissidents. They have to face that kind of pressure from the outside world, but they also need to receive the support in order to do whatever they need to do from within. These are the two combination elements. So yes, it is important to maintain pressure on this regime, because you have to limit its ability. It's not going to trickle down to the people. Even if the sanctions were removed, this regime will not be spending it on the Iranian people.
Got it. But obviously you can disagree with my question, but you have absolutely no right to make some kind of assumption that, you can disagree with the question, but you have no right to make the assumption that I am repeating the propaganda of others, because I'm not making a similar charge about you on the program. I equally can say that you're also being a propagandist for certain interests in the West, but I'm not saying that. So I think we should reserve our views of who feels who's speaking for whom to ourselves, because if we want to discuss the Middle East, and I can push the envelope on that, it is the United States which is the elephant in the room. America's Iran policy does not have a bipartisan consensus. We have typically seen Democrats indulging more with the present regime in Iran vis-a-vis the Republicans, and some analysts say it's unlikely that the Israeli response may have been less restrained but for a Democrat, Joe Biden, as a president. You've been yourself critical of Biden. So essentially we can't cover up the fact that there's a lack of bipartisan consensus within the United States. In any case, my follow-up question to you is, and that's only my response to your unfair charge. My question to you is, why should the people of Iran believe that you have their best interests in mind? Because you lived in the United States for a large part of your life. You moved there well in your 20s. You've lived outside Iran, and you're very vocal about the situation in Iran. Some people would see you as a Western prop. How would you respond to that? That you're taking a certain political line which would go well with the West but not be in the interests of the Iranian people. This charge is something I want you to respond to as directly as possible.
That's very easy to prove. All you have to do is to monitor Iranian social media. All you have to do is to look at various polls that have been done about what level of support or popularity I have in Iran. These are not polls conducted by me. It's in fact conducted by elements who are not necessarily my sympathizers. And you will see right there and then the amount of respect and trust that they have in what I've been doing and the legacy of my family. All you have to do is to monitor what's happening in Iranian social media and the feedback and reactions that my compatriots are demonstrating. Now, as far as my own contact with my fellow compatriots, which is on a daily basis, the fact that I was physically unable to be in Iran, the fact that I was physically away from my country, doesn't mean for a second that I'm not aware of everything that is happening in my country every single day, in all of the smallest details. Why is this vision important? And that's the reason why Iranians have faith in my ability to help them, is because this is one of the very few people, if not the only person they can trust, and they say so. And that trust has tremendous amount of value for me. It's a political capital that I'm spending on the liberation of my fellow compatriots. They need to have a chance to determine their own future. Currently, they don't. And what I stand for is a process that not only frees our country from the stronghold of a religious dictatorship, but would also provide them with an opportunity to decide their own fate in the parliamentary process. This is exactly the kind of plan that I'm proposing. It has nothing to do with America or Europe or any other country. It's a process that we as Iranians deserve to have to determine our own fate. So on that basis, my ask and my message to anybody who's willing to listen to this message is to understand why Iranians deserve to have that opportunity, something they've been deprived on ever since this regime has taken over. That's what I stand for. This is my agenda, and let the chips fall where they may.
And lastly, what are your plans? We're very intrigued. Of late, you've been speaking to a lot of leading media networks globally. You're increasing your footprint. You're speaking in very influential circles in the topmost universities in the world. What are your plans? What is your end game in this?
The plan is to make sure that we are in this first phase successful in bringing this regime to collapse by means of internal pressure, probably at its climax, nationwide labor strikes, which is the least costly way and the most effective way to paralyze the regime. And, of course, to be prepared to manage a transition phase, at which time an interim government will have to be formed. I think the majority of the participants are, as I speak, inside the country. We have to be able to plan for the inclusivity of the majority of elements that are not criminally tied to this regime, whether on the civilian side, but particularly on the military and paramilitary side. There has to be an exit strategy offered to them so they can see a place for themselves beyond this regime. We're not talking about the disaster of de-Baathification in Iraq after the fall of Saddam Hussein and send all the troops home, and half of them ended up becoming ISIS fighters. This is also part of the plan to be inclusive of the majority of them who are not corrupt or involved in the criminal behavior of this ruling mafia. That is also tantamount to calling the nation to national reconciliation and amnesty to the extent possible. We have to make sure that during the transition, we have every element of transitional justice taken into consideration. We have to prepare the grounds as soon as possible for the election of a constitutional assembly, whereby all these elements of the constitution, the form of the regime, its content, the level of centralization or decentralization of power, and so on, will be debated. And ultimately, when this parliament will propose to the nation a constitutional plan, the nation can, in a referendum, adopt and finally vote for what they want for their future. To me, that's the end game. The end game for me is the day Iranians go to the poll and finally determine the future of the land. I would have considered that a lifetime's mission accomplished.
Well, this has been very interesting. We'll track whatever you do next. And of course, we'll keep talking to you as we watch the situation in Iran and in the Middle East. Thank you very much, Mr. Pahlavi, for talking to me and for talking to the Republic Media Network. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Co-powered by Simpolo Tiles and Bathware.
Supreme's over 9,000 and more plumbing and drainage products and water tanks are made from high-quality raw materials and innovative designs. Supreme Total Piping Solutions, with you for a lifetime.
In just a decade, India has transformed into a digital powerhouse. From classrooms to clinics, farms to finance, digitalization is revolutionizing every aspect of life. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
Co-powered by Simpolo Tiles and Bathware.
In the India Today Best Universities 2023 survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National Law School Bengaluru.
With over 1,12,718 startups igniting innovation, driving digital growth. Over 800 million internet users are bridging distances and strengthening bonds across the globe, making India the third largest digitalized country in the world, accounting for around 46% of the world's real-time digital transactions. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
صواريخ العدو الحمد لله على الأرض. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. صواريخ العدو الحمد لله على الأرض. الله سبحانه وتعالى لعنة الله عليهم. الضربة هنا صارت. صواريخ العدو الحمد لله على الأرض. الله سبحانه وتعالى لعنة الله عليهم. يا علي فرم يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي دحيلك اوقف اوقف عبود انزل ولا لا والله ما حاول هو ما حاول اهو محمد شادم الضربة هنا صارت.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand.
And viewers, let's get you a quick alert coming in right now. Tamil Nadu, the BJP chief Arvind is leading a vibrant road show. This is happening. It's a big support. It's a big rally in support for BJP's Kollam constituency candidate G. Krishna Kumar as part of the election campaign. And those visuals coming in on your screen. Annamalai campaigning for the Kollam candidate and a huge roadshow being held there. Annamalai campaigning as part of the election campaign as we are in the middle of the election season.
With over 1,12,718 startups igniting innovation, driving digital growth. Over 800 million internet users are bridging distances and strengthening bonds across the globe, making India the third largest digitalized country in the world, accounting for around 46% of the world's real-time digital transactions. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its Inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
Viewers, we're live and breaking. I'm Shivangi Shukla, getting you the latest coming in at this Sunday afternoon. We have a lot lined up for you. We'll get you up to date with all the stories that we are tracking right now. Stories coming in from across the country, especially as we are in the middle of the election season. You'll get all the scoops first right over here. But first, the headlines we are tracking at this moment.
If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today.
Speaking exclusively to Arnab, Iran Crown Prince calls Joe Biden a weak leader.
That the people of Iran would be able to tell the whole world and demonstrate to the whole world that unlike this regime that is constantly blackmailing you, that is taking ransom money to liberate hostages, and you pay the price for that.
Iran Crown Prince tears into current Iran regime, claims regime taking money for hostages.
देश दुनिया के बड़े बड़े ताकतवर लोग मोदी को हटाने के लिए एकजुट हो गए हैं।
PM Modi makes a big claim in Chikkabalapur, makes a big claim and says that big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power. PM Modi marks Mahavir Jayanti with an address from Bharat Mandapam, says spirituality is Bharat's soul. Aam Aadmi Party ups the ante against Tihar jail. Admin says letter by DG seeks specialist doctor for Kejriwal is a farce. Massive blow for Rahul. Days ahead of voting in Wayanad, Congress District Committee General Secretary jobs shipped to the BJP. Viewers, let's go to the top story we're tracking right now, and we have been seeing for the past few days how a bitter war of words has erupted over Arvind Kejriwal's diet in jail and his sugar levels. And now we are getting you a new update coming in. After 20 days, the jail DG has written a letter to AIIMS for a specialist doctor for Arvind Kejriwal. Now, what we learned so far is that Aam Aadmi Party Minister Saurabh Bhardwaj has made the disclosure in today's press conference. Let's go ahead and play out that statement.
डायबिटीज के मरीज, कोई भी शुगर का मरीज अगर अपनी शुगर नापता है तो उसकी शुगर बढ़ती भी बहुत तेजी से है और घटती भी बहुत तेजी से है। इसीलिए शुगर का मरीज अगर बहुत हाई डायबिटिक हो तो जेब में ग्लूकोज लेके, टॉफी लेके, कोई मीठा लेके घूमता है। कई बार आपने देखा होगा डायबिटीज का मरीज बेहोश हो जाता है तो लोग कहते हैं जल्दी जल्दी लाओ, चीनी का पानी पिलाओ, उसको ग्लूकोज पिलाओ, ताकि उसकी शुगर लेवल ऊपर आए और वो बच जाए, वरना वो मर जाएगा। डायबिटीज के मरीज की शुगर एकदम घटती है। जैसे ईडी की कस्टडी में मुख्यमंत्री की शुगर 46 तक पहुंच गई थी, 46 पहुंची थी। तो जब आप रैंडम शुगर की बात आपका डॉक्टर लिख रहा है उस रिपोर्ट में, तो आप वो शुगर लिख रहे हैं जब उनकी शुगर गिरी हुई है, और वो कोट करके आप एक मुख्यमंत्री को दवा नहीं दे रहे। आप बोलिए ना कि अरविंद केजरीवाल ने जो रिपोर्ट दी है वो झूठी है, कहिए। नहीं कह सकते, क्योंकि अरविंद केजरीवाल ने जो रिपोर्ट दी है, जो कल रिपोर्ट हमने मीडिया में रखी है, वो उनके ग्लूकोमीटर में दर्ज है। उसमें पूरे 20 दिन की यूनिट्स दर्ज हैं, उसके अंदर पूरी 20 दिन की रिकॉर्डिंग दर्ज है। एक एक मिनट की रिकॉर्डिंग है उसमें, हर घंटे की रिकॉर्डिंग है उसमें।
All right, viewers, so appropriate senior specialist from AIIMS yesterday provided consultation to Arvind Kejriwal in jail through VC. Now, this happened through video. After 40-minute detailed consultation, Kejriwal was assured that there was no serious concern, and he was also advised to continue with the prescribed medicines, which will be evaluated and reviewed on a regular basis. Neither the issue of insulin was raised by Kejriwal, nor the insulin was suggested by the doctors. And now I'm being joined by my colleague who's joining us live. Simran is joining us live right now. And Simran, the entire issue is about Kejriwal, his sugar levels, about insulin. Now, the LG's office has repeated what the hard jail authorities have said again and again, that there's no need of insulin with present levels. Now, the information we have coming in right now, it says that Kejriwal has not even raised the issue of insulin. Now, this issue of insulin is being raised by Aam Aadmi Party leaders in press conferences, like we just saw Saurabh Bhardwaj speaking there. What's the latest coming in? Simran.
Well, the fact check of the insulin levels of the jailed Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal will actually be a big eye-opener for even the parties that are engaged in the matter of bribes at each other. But right now, even after many attempts by the AAP actually challenging the LG, the Tihad authorities, and also the BJP, in fact, for accusing them and saying that insulin levels were being dropped of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, as he was not maintaining constant blood sugar levels as well. Right now, in fact, the 40-minute detailed video consultation that was actually provided to Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal on the request of his wife, Sunita Kejriwal, inside the jail by a panel of doctors at the AIM, where there was an RO and there was also an MO of the Tihad jail authorities present in the video consultation, which actually yielded out that there was actually no dropping in the insulin levels, as there was no need to be given the insulin to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. However, right now we are also breaking at this point of time the piece of news that we have got, that the party workers of the Aam Aadmi Party have gathered outside the Tihar jail, or they are planning in fact as well to actually protest against the jail authorities and also the LG for not granting him the insulin which he claims, or the Aam Aadmi Party in fact claims that he has been taking for many years now due to type 2 diabetes that he is suffering from. But in fact, when we see and look at this from this perspective, that the excise policy scam is now revolving at certain points only from the mango consumption to the insulin providing or the blood sugar levels of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. In fact, the entire controversy and the political bickering that has erupted between the AAP and the BJP only comes down to the insulin levels. In fact, the question of the levels of insulin of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is only becoming the point of contention for both the parties. However, the Delhi court has also, in the order and the hearing as well, the last week has said that the insulin level or the hearing will be continued. The order has been given. It has been reserved, and on April 22 is the date when we are also given to understand that this entire controversy and this plot for the insulin levels of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will be coming clear on that day. Back to you.
Right, and Simran, you know, we have to talk a little bit more about what the Aam Aadmi Party is saying, because the kind of allegations the Aam Aadmi Party is making is quite serious. Now, they are saying that there is a conspiracy to kill, I repeat, kill Arvind Kejriwal. That's what they are saying. But right now, the AIM specialist, and that's the big news we are breaking right now, has clearly said that Kejriwal has not even raised the issue of insulin at all when they had a talk with him over video call. Now, if you could take our viewers through, what proof does Aam Aadmi Party have to say and allege that Arvind Kejriwal's life is in danger and there's a conspiracy to kill him? Simran.
Well, so far there has been no documental proof of this claim or of course these allegations that have been repeatedly and consistently made in public address and in press conferences as well from the Aam Aadmi Party. But so far what we have been given to understand at this particular time is that he has been suffering from type 2 diabetes for a long time, and that has in fact become a very new flashpoint of the entire controversy of the ED versus AAP in the liquor scam as well. And right now when the AAP says that he has been devoid of certain type of a treatment inside the custody in the Tihar jail, in fact the ED has also raised this concern before the judge when the hearing was going on, when Arvind Kejriwal last week had applied for the bail plea and also in different matters in the Rouse Avenue court. The court also said that this treatment that will be given to Arvind Kejriwal will not be a specialized one. He will be treated as per the rules that have been laid down in the jail manual for any of the prisoners under trial. So we need to understand that there is no such documental proof that we can actually come out and claim on the basis of the Aam Aadmi Party. But what we have also been repeatedly reporting over, that even the BJP is also up in arms saying that the proof needs to be there. How is he being given different treatment, and how in fact to respond onto the claim of the AAP made by saying that he has been pushed to a slow death, as you have also said, which will also be coming clear in some days from now as a controversy continuously keeps on being widened. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Simran, for getting us all the details. Simran, keeping us up to date with what is happening as a bitter war of words on Arvind Kejriwal's diet, Arvind Kejriwal's sugar levels continues, and we'll keep you updated on this story. Let's move ahead, viewers, to the other stories we're tracking on Republic TV. And Prime Minister Modi was addressing a mega public meeting in Chikkabalapura on Saturday, said big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to remove him from power. That's the statement that PM Modi has made. Let's go ahead, viewers, and play out an exact statement of the Prime Minister.
आप जिन चुनौतियों से अपने परिवार को पालती है, ये मोदी ने अपने घर में देखा है। आजकल देश दुनिया के बड़े बड़े ताकतवर लोग मोदी को हटाने के लिए एकजुट हो गए हैं, लेकिन ये नारी शक्ति का आशीर्वाद है, मातृशक्ति का आशीर्वाद है, आपका सुरक्षा कवच है कि मोदी हर चुनौती से टकराते हुए चलता जा रहा है।
And viewers, let's move ahead to the other story we're tracking. Last year, a group of political parties came together to form I.N.D.I.A. And to defeat the BJP, they echoed patriotism and vowed to save the Indian democracy. Months later, they cannot even save their own selves. The alliance is falling down. There is infighting among the parties, and no glue in this world can help stick it together. Well, here's more on this story that we are tracking.
As far as the NDA is concerned, we are not the sort of party that has our feet in multiple boats. Once we make friends, we stick to those friends.
That was National Conference Chief Omar Abdullah pledging his support to Congress. But that was also February. 2 months have passed since his friendship talk. And the bond between India Alliance, especially Congress and NC, seems to have fallen apart. In fact, Omar made it clear that the only reason the two parties were coming along was to defeat the BJP.
But the truth is that sometimes for a bigger objective, small sacrifices have to be made. If the bigger objective is to win seats back from the BJP, Jammu, Udhampur and Ladakh, then if it is necessary for the National Conference to enter into seat-sharing understanding with the Congress, our doors are open.
Now, National Conference leader Chaudhry Akram has said that there is no difference between the Congress and the BJP.
नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस जैसे मैंने कहा, इसके बगैर जम्मू कश्मीर को बचाने वाली कोई जमात नहीं। ये नहीं कि आज मैं नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस में आया, मैंने कांग्रेस को भी देखा, पीडीपी का तो आपके सामने है।
Last year, after Congress suffered defeat in Madhya Pradesh, Omar took a dig at the grand old party.
मैं क्या नहीं सकता हूँ ना, जिस तरह इंडिया अलायंस का इन स्टेट इलेक्शंस में हाल रहा, अगर आगे जाके भी यही हाल रहेगा तो हम शायद बच नहीं पाएंगे। समझ में नहीं आता, या तो कांग्रेस पूरी तरह से मध्य प्रदेश में ग्राउंड सिचुएशन को समझ नहीं पाई, नहीं तो क्या जाता अगर वो अखिलेश यादव को 5-7 सीटें दे देते, क्या तूफान होता। वैसे भी क्या जीता उन्होंने, फिर नहीं जीत पाए ना। अगर अखिलेश यादव को 5-7-10 सीटें दे देते, मुमकिन है कि थोड़ा और हमारा बचाव मध्य प्रदेश में हो जाता, नहीं किया। नतीजे आपके सामने हैं।
With the split in India Alliance now wide open, will it be able to test the waters and stand toe-to-toe against the BJP?
And a short while back, viewers, the Prime Minister spoke today. He spoke on different topics, especially talking about the Indian heritage like yoga and Ayurveda, and saying that the country's new generation now believes in self-pride and taking pride in their own identity. Let's go ahead and play out all the strong statements made by the Prime Minister a short while back.
ऐसे अवसर स्वाभाविक रूप से कई विशेष संयोगों को भी जोड़ते हैं। ये वो समय है जब भारत अमृत काल की शुरुआती दौर में है। देश आजादी के शताब्दी वर्ष को स्वर्णिम शताब्दी बनाने के लिए काम कर रहा है। हम दुनिया को ये बताते हैं कि वैश्विक संकटों और संघर्षों का समाधान भारत की प्राचीन संस्कृति में है, भारत की प्राचीन परंपरा में है। इसलिए आज विरोधों में भी बटे विश्व के लिए भारत विश्व बंधु के रूप में अपनी जगह बना रहा है। और बहनों, दशकों तक हमारे देश ने भी भ्रष्टाचार की त्रासदी को सहा है। हमने गरीबी की गहरी पीड़ा देखी है। आज देश जब उस मुकाम पर पहुंचा है कि हमने 25 करोड़ देशवासियों को गरीबी के दलदल से बाहर निकाला है। आपको याद होगा, मैंने लाल किले से कहा था और अभी पूज्य महाराज जी ने भी कहा, यही समय है, सही समय है। मुझे विश्वास भी है कि भारत के भविष्य निर्माण की इस यात्रा में आप सभी संतों का सहयोग देश के संकल्पों को मजबूत बनाएगा, भारत को विकसित बनाएगा। भगवान महावीर के आशीर्वाद 140 करोड़ देशवासियों का और मानव मात्र का कल्याण करेंगे। कि आज हम सत्य और अहिंसा जैसे व्रतों को वैश्विक मंचों पर पूरे आत्मविश्वास से रखते हैं। हम दुनिया को ये बताते हैं कि वैश्विक संकटों और संघर्षों का समाधान भारत की प्राचीन संस्कृति में है, भारत की प्राचीन परंपरा में है। इसलिए आज विरोधों में भी बटे विश्व के लिए भारत विश्व बंधु के रूप में अपनी जगह बना रहा है। ये भारत ही नहीं जो इति नहीं अपरिमित में विश्वास करता है। ये भारत ही है जो नीति की बात करता है, नेति की भी बात करता है।
And viewers, let's move ahead right now to the other stories we're tracking on Republic TV. As the voting season has begun in India, there are several issues that are being addressed right now. So we are talking about terrorism, we are talking about security, health, education. But in some places, there's some people who just want one thing. They just want water. In Rajasthan's Bhim village, which falls under the Rajsamand constituency, from where Diya Kumari won in 2019, the people are fighting a major water crisis. Take a look at this report to understand the story better.
While some parts of India are already seeing heavy rains, there is one village in Rajasthan that doesn't even have enough water to drink. Bhim village has been battling water scarcity for several years. Women and children stand in queues to fill their matkas. Sharing her ordeal, a villager said that authorities have done nothing to tackle the water crisis.
हम 2008 से यहाँ रह रहे हैं और 2008 में हमारा बोर कराया था। उसके बाद में लगातार पानी की यही समस्या है और पूरा यहाँ का मोहल्ला जो भी 250-300 घर बस्ती है, सारा पानी यहीं से पीता है। 4 बजे से 6 बजे के बीच में लोग सब इकट्ठे, मतलब 4:30 तक इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं लोग, और चालू हो जाता है तो लोग चालू में देखते हुए एक दूसरे को देख के आते रहते हैं, और जब तक सब पानी नहीं भर लेते जब तक चलता रहता है। बाई चांस कोई रह जाते तो फिर चालू करते हैं। अभी तक तो हम किसी ने आकर के पूछा नहीं कि यहाँ के लोग कहाँ से पानी पी रहे हैं। एक हैंडपंप है, वो अभी गर्मी के दिनों में तो बिल्कुल चलता ही नहीं है, और पानी दिन में शाम सुबह यहीं से ले जाते हैं लोग। बिल्कुल सर, करती उम्मीद भी लोगों को पानी मिल जाए पर्याप्त मात्रा में, ताकि वो आराम से घर के पास में पानी मिले तो अच्छा है, वो आने की भागदौड़ खत्म हो जाए। यहाँ पे क्या हमारा टाइम फिक्स है, तो लोग मजदूरी पे जाते हैं तो उनको ये रहता है कि पानी बंद हो जाएगा हमारा।
it is interesting that Diya Kumari, the Deputy Chief Minister, won the 2019 election from the Rajsamand Lok Sabha constituency, under which this village falls with a majority of 69.61%. This year, the fight is between BJP's Mahima Vishweshwar Singh and Congress's Damodar Gurjar. But for these villagers, the fight is for water. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
All right, viewers, let's go ahead to the next story we're tracking right now. Aam Aadmi Party workers are staging a protest outside Tihar jail, and this is happening in solidarity against the arrest of Arvind Kejriwal. So that's a big update we're getting for you right now. We'll soon show you all the visuals coming in as well. You see the visuals coming in on your screen of Aam Aadmi Party workers holding a protest. Now, Aam Aadmi Party workers have been holding multiple protests in different parts of the country for the past few weeks now. They're protesting against Arvind Kejriwal's arrest. Aam Aadmi Party leaders have also held collective fasts to protest against Arvind Kejriwal's arrest. And top leaders had gathered a few days ago in Jantar Mantar for a day-long upvas to protest against the arrest of Arvind Kejriwal. So right now the protest is happening outside Tihar jail. That's what we're learning of right now. You can see those visuals coming in on your screen of the Aam Aadmi Party workers protesting against Kejriwal's arrest. And those visuals coming in on your screen right now on Republic TV. Now, this is coming in, of course, as we have been getting you all the top details about the bitter war of words which has erupted over Arvind Kejriwal's sugar level. So we're already seeing that there has been a huge escalation in terms of the allegations that Aam Aadmi Party is putting on the BJP and the LG, and we are seeing that is also playing out simultaneously. Right now, Aam Aadmi Party workers protesting against Arvind Kejriwal's arrest right now outside Tihar jail. And viewers, now we move ahead to the other stories we're tracking on Republic TV. Let's get you up to speed with all the news which is making headlines all over the world in our global wrap. In the village of Fapaha in the north of Ivory Coast, women have formed a cooperative to grow vegetables and sell their produce on the market, allowing them to raise money for their families without relying on handouts. According to a UK-funded study in Ivory Coast, 42.9% of women in the country work in agriculture, more than any other sector. Michigan's sheriff said a young boy and his sister died and several people were injured, several seriously, when a vehicle driven by a suspected drunken driver crashed into a child's birthday party at a boat club. Monroe County Sheriff said an 8-year-old girl and her 5-year-old brother died at the scene in the crash when 66-year-old woman crashed 25 feet into the building about 30 miles south of Detroit. Election Commission of Pakistan directed the security personnel, excluding armed forces, deployed in by-election to maintain neutrality, ensure peace, avoid conflicts, arrests, report irregularities and uphold impartiality, particularly during the counting process. With a loss of nearly 24 lives recorded in a single day, the death toll from the severe weather conditions in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa surged to 59. The National Disaster Management Authority has directed to be prepared for continued heavy rainfall and thunderstorms till April 29th across the country. Two Japanese Navy helicopters carrying 8 crew members crashed into the Pacific Ocean south of Tokyo during a nighttime training flight after possibly colliding with each other. One crew member who had been recovered from the waters was later pronounced dead, whilst rescuers searched for 7 others who are still missing. Much more coming up, viewers. PM Modi makes a big claim. Says big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power. Stay tuned.
In just a decade, India has transformed into a digital powerhouse. From classrooms to clinics, farms to finance, digitalization is revolutionizing every aspect of life. celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra. Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand, brings you the latest breaking news updates from across the country, only on Republic TV. And I am Rakshita Mishra.
Are you saying that Biden is a weak leader who is appeasing Khomeini, that he does not want a bigger war to break out because there's a US election coming up and he doesn't want to be seen diverting assets from Ukraine, leading to a bigger mess?
I believe so. I mean, the result is right in front of us. The regime had access to almost $100 billion worth of oil revenue that it should not have had should the oil sanction had been implemented correctly. That extra cash, that extra money was something that, again, not only made it easier for the regime to spend it on its proxies, including the recent conflicts and all the drones and missiles had to be paid for. If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today. Why? Because that kind of leadership and strength basically makes such regimes think twice before they do anything, whether it's at home or abroad.
आज जब पूरा देश राममय है, समाजवादी पार्टी के लोग वोट बैंक की खातिर पब्लिकली कहते हैं कि ये सब तो पाखंडी है। क्या राम भक्त पाखंडी है क्या? क्या राम की पूजा करने वाले पाखंडी है क्या? हमारी हजारों वर्ष की मान्यता को जिसके साक्षात सबूत है, इस तरह खारिज कर रहे हैं लोग सिर्फ और सिर्फ वोट बैंक के खातिर।
If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today.
Speaking exclusively to Arnab Goswami, Iran Crown Prince calls Joe Biden a weak leader.
That the people of Iran would be able to tell the whole world and demonstrate to the whole world that unlike this regime that is constantly blackmailing you, that is taking ransom money to liberate hostages, and you pay the price for that.
Iran Crown Prince dares into current Iran regime, claims regime taking money for hostages.
देश दुनिया के बड़े बड़े ताकतवर लोग मोदी को हटाने के लिए एकजुट हो गए हैं।
Prime Minister makes a big claim in Chikkabalapura, says big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power.
अनेकांतवाद यानी एक विषय के अनेक पहलुओं को समझना, दूसरों के दृष्टिकोण को भी देखने और स्वीकारने की उदारता वाला, आस्था की ऐसी मुक्त व्याख्या, यही तो भारत की विशेषता है।
Prime Minister Modi marks Mahavir Jayanti with an address from Bharat Mandapam, says spirituality is Bharat's soul. Aam Aadmi Party ups the ante against the jail admin, says letter by the DG seeking specialist doctor for Kejriwal is a farce. Massive blow for Rahul Gandhi. Days ahead of voting in Wayanad, Congress District Committee General Secretary jumps the ship to the BJP. Very good afternoon, viewers. We are live on Big Republic TV and I'm Rakshita Mishra with you this Sunday afternoon. The video of Kerala police trying to stop Sri Ram icon that was intended to be displayed during the Kodamattam in the world-famous Thrissur Puram has leaked out. Now, this year, Thrissur Puram saw intense police interference, leading to organizers stopping the Puram midway. Now, today, the video of the police commissioner Ankit Ashokan trying to stop Sri Ram decor has emerged. And the BJP alleges police tried to sabotage the Thrissur Puram festivities. The new video has triggered a controversy, leading to a political blame game. And you can see that the row that has erupted. My colleague Ashwin, in fact, is joining us live on the broadcast for more on this. Now, this is another controversy right now that is erupting. Tell us more about the details of this and what can be seen in this video.
Well, Rakshita, the Thrissur Puram, as we all know, was one of the grandest festivities which is looked upon from across the world. And it is a pride of the people of Kerala. Now, this Puram which held on Friday, there has been several criticism, especially because of the over restrictions that has been put by the police, because of which some of the core rituals which was associated with the Puram did not take place. Some of them were cancelled, some of them led to protest by the organizers. They didn't want to have it because of excessive police force. Police even resorted to lathi charge as well. And there were several complaints from different quarters about this. In fact, the most important pyro works was delayed by over 4 hours. But now today, another video has emerged which Republic has access, which shows that the police was even trying to restrict iconography of Sri Ram, which was supposed to be displayed on Friday evening or atop the well-decorated elephant. And from this particular decoration, it's called as Kodamattam. It's an exchange of umbrellas, but basically from two sides of the Thrissur Puram festivities. There is like a fight, and it is a competition where different decors are paired. Now, what we can see clearly is the Commissioner of Police of Thrissur clearly trying to stop this from entering into the complex of the Shiva temple, which is the witness to the Thrissur Puram festival. Now, after this has emerged, the BJP, which had earlier raised a huge concern regarding this, saying that the police excess had led to complete sabotage of the Puram, the festivities. With this video, it has shown more credence that the police was trying to restrict. Now, what we can see in this video, Rakshita, is that iconography of Sri Ram with his bow stretched, and this was displayed on Friday evening as part of the ritual. But there were some restrictions. Police was even trying to stop it from entering into the complex, citing many reasons. Now, from the police sources, what we get to understand is that they were trying to not create any hindrance to it, but they were in fact trying to do a crowd control. But what we get to understand is not just the crowd, the people who were participating in the festival, including the drummers, the people who were intrinsic to the festivities, who lead the festival, even they were blocked from the temple compound itself. Some unnecessary barricade was also kept, and there's a large-scale protest from across all the political background against the police atrocities that has been committed in the Thrissur Puram, and that is now taking a huge political turn. Rakshita.
Right, Ashwin, of course, and there's a political blame game now that has erupted, Ashwin. Each of the sides, the political parties and the opposition is trying to say that there is a hidden political agenda behind what has really happened. And why? This is something that happens, every year and with much great pomp and show. And, the devotees are always looking forward to this event, to the fireworks, to all the, the Panchvadyam and all the other, festivities that take place. But what is the moot point here? Why are both of the parties, blaming the hidden agenda? And has this, for the first time, been happening?
Absolutely, Rakshita. It's the first time this kind of a restriction is being put. Now, the entire festival happens in a ground called a Swaraj ground, which is the compound of a Shiva temple, Vadakamnathan temple. Now, imagine the police barricaded even people from entering this compound, stating that there has to keep a safe distance from the pyro works. Now, usually this restriction is done just 1 hour before the pyro works. But surprisingly, this year, this restriction came 11 hours, 12 hours before the pyroworks was even started. And that has led to a massive outrage within the Puram lovers. There's a massive fan following for the Puram. And this, because of the confusion, there has been several rituals which had to be cancelled, and because of which many devotees, many people who thronged the festival, they were unable to see it. And everybody has blamed the police atrocities. The police has even used lathi charge against the temple festival organizers as well. And on top of this video has come, which clearly shows the police is trying to create unnecessary interference in conducting the fair rituals of the festival itself. So certainly the BJP has called it by saying that there is a move to sabotage ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. On 26th of this, on April, Kerala is going to polls, and this is particularly a time when everybody has to be sensitive. But the police excess has really led to a kind of a narrative building, and we could see that the first person to arrive was a BJP candidate, Suresh Gopi, who tried to speak to the temple organizers, saying that they should not stop the festivities from happening, because the temple organizers from the Tiruvampadi side had stated that because of those police atrocities, they are not going to do it, and they dropped the entire plan of the festival. The first person to reach was BJP candidate Suresh Gopi, followed by which other candidates also came. I spoke to the Puram organizers. What they said was in charge was Revenue Minister Rajan from this left party. They tried to call him. He was unreachable, because of which they decided not to go ahead with the festivities. Overall, the festivities that concluded on Saturday, the main festival on Friday, most of the core things of the festival, the core celebrations of the festival got affected because of this alleged over restriction that was put on place. Many devotees I spoke to, some people contacted saying they were not able to see or witness some of the spectacles of Thrissur Puram, and this has led to a massive stir, especially ahead of an election, a Lok Sabha election, where BJP is seen to be a strong contender. In the last elections in Thrissur, BJP candidate had come second, and they had got about 28% of the vote share, and the winning candidate has got just 32%. So it is a very very tight fight, and it is slated that there's a huge tri-party fight that is going to happen in the middle of this festival like Puram, which affects the entire psyche of Thrissur natives. This has definitely created a big stir politically, where we see Congress, the CPM as well as the BJP stating that there is some kind of way to sabotage the festivities that has happened in Thrissur as well. Rakshita.
Absolutely, of course. Having just such events taking place just ahead of the elections, of course, raises many questions. But thank you so much for the moment joining us on the broadcast, Ashwin, live from Thiruvananthapuram. Now we should focus to some other stories, viewers. In an interesting turn of events now, veteran Congress leader and former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Kapil Nath was captured on a video raising Jai Shri Ram slogans at a rally in Chutki village of Betul in Madhya Pradesh. Now, this has, of course, sparked widespread attention. Just to remind you that speculations about Kamal Nath potentially joining the BJP had already gained momentum back in February after he and his son Nakul Nath had hastily travelled to Delhi, and in fact he and his son had been camping in the national capital for days. And now, as rumours swirled in the political circles regarding Nath's possible departure from Congress to join the BJP, has led to now, and now him, of course, him even raising Jai Shri Ram slogans in this video. The veteran leader, in fact, he has now removed the Jai Shri Ram Jai Shri Ram flag from atop his residence also. So that has, of course, sparked speculations once again. Here's a clip to show you what's the matter all about.
भगवान राम की बात करते हैं। कहीं हमने राम मंदिर बनाया। अरे भाई साहब, राम मंदिर का पट्टा क्या आपके पास है? ये राम मंदिर आपके चंदे से बना। ये राम मंदिर आपका है और मेरा है। हम सबका अपनी अपनी धार्मिक भावना है। हमारी सबकी अपनी अपनी भावना है। पर धर्म आचार का विषय है, विचार का विषय है, राजनीतिक प्रचार का विषय नहीं है। यह हमें याद रखना है। हम धर्म को राजनीतिक मंच पर नहीं लाते। मैं हिंदू, मैं गर्व से कहता हूं मैं हिंदू हूं और मेरी अपनी भावना है। मैंने सबसे बड़ा मंदिर।
Now, a wall collapse in Gurugram on Saturday night has resulted in the deaths of 4 people. CCTV footage from the area shows that the incident happened even as 4 people were sitting next to the wall when it suddenly tilted and collapsed on them. Details in this report.
A tragic incident has come to light from Gurugram, where 4 people who were enjoying a Saturday evening at a tea stall in Gurugram's Arjun Nagar died after a wall collapsed on them. CCTV footage shows a stack of logs falling onto the wall which suddenly collapsed on them. Among the 4 dead is an 11-year-old girl. One of the injured is currently undergoing treatment at a local hospital. The victims has been identified as an 11-year-old Tanya, 70-year-old Devi Dayal, 54-year-old Manoj Gabba, and 52-year-old Krishna Kumar. The incident happened when the wall facing Arjun Nagar collapsed, trapping 4 individuals and 2 children beneath its debris.
In an unfortunate incident on Saturday evening, a state-run crematorium's wall fell on the 5 people which buried them and also killed 2 children, including the 5 people. The 5 were reported dead and the police has also registered a case. Meanwhile, the residents have lodged many complaints earlier in the past, also raising concerns on the quality and the base of the material that was used in the wall of the crematorium in Gurugram.
The authorities have initiated an investigation into the case of the incident. Bureau Report, Republic TV.
And now let's take a look at some other stories that are making news in this election season. PM Modi has intensified his campaign trail for elections. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding 2 rallies in Rajasthan today. And in fact, the rallies will be held in Jalore and Banswara districts. Union Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh are scheduled to address rallies in Darjeeling today. Now, Darjeeling is one of the 3 Lok Sabha constituencies in West Bengal that will go to polls in the second phase of on the 26th of April, and the other 2 being Raiganj and Balurghat. BJP candidates had won from these 3 constituencies in 2019. Leaders from 14 political parties, including Mallikarjun Kharge, Rahul Gandhi, Lalu Prasad Yadav, among the others, have agreed to participate in opposition Indie Bloc's Ulgulan Nyay rally today. Now, led by Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, the rally will be held in Jharkhand's capital, Ranchi. Now, Congress leader and former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Kamal Nath raised Jai Shri Ram slogans while addressing a rally in Betul. Video of the incident shows Kamal Nath urging the crowd to raise the slogan has gone viral. Congress leader Sachin Pilot has claimed that the BJP will be wiped out in the south and reduced to half of its current strength in North India in the Lok Sabha elections. He added that the BJP had realized after the first phase of the election that it was on the back foot.
देश दुनिया के बड़े बड़े ताकतवर लोग मोदी को हटाने के लिए एकजुट हो गए हैं।
Prime Minister Modi makes a big claim in Chikkabalapura, says big and powerful people in India and abroad have colluded to oust him from power.
Co-powered by Simpolo Tiles and Bathware.
In the India Today Best Universities 2023 survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National Law School Bengaluru.
In just a decade, India has transformed into a digital powerhouse. From classrooms to clinics, farms to finance, digitalization is revolutionizing every aspect of life. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Award.
Amid the hustle and bustle of the election day, there was one particular story that is of huge importance, one that has made India proud once again of its defense capabilities. In fact, we are talking here about India being one of the proud producers of the BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles system, one of the best cruise missiles in the entire world. In fact, note that India has successfully delivered the first batch of our elite BrahMos missiles to a new ally in Southeast Asia, the Philippines. Also remember that India and Philippines had reached an agreement back in 2022 on the BrahMos missiles, and India has now delivered on the deal in just 2 years' time. In fact, also note it is quite a remarkable achievement for India's defense sector, which is making a huge stride in defense manufacturing industry after being the world's largest defense importer for the longest time. Here is a report on how India celebrated its mega achievement.
India has delivered the first batch of the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile system to Philippines.
Welcome back. Now, in the occupied West Bank, tensions escalate as the Israeli army raids continue in the Nur Shams refugee camp for a second day. Amidst the latest round of onslaught, the IDF claims to have eliminated 10 terrorists while arresting 8 other suspects. The circumstances are volatile for the Palestinian Red Crescent as they attempt to make way into the camp to supply aid. More on this in this report.
In the occupied West Bank, Israeli army raids in the Nur Shams refugee camp have intensified, now entering the second day. The situation remains volatile. On Friday, the military operation claimed the lives of 4 individuals, including 3 terrorists and a 15-year-old boy. Israeli forces claimed that they eliminated a total of 10 terrorists in the camp and its surroundings. However, the clashes have not been without cost. 9 Israeli soldiers and officers have also sustained injuries. Despite the ongoing violence, efforts by the Palestinian Red Crescent to reach casualties have been hampered by restrictions imposed by the Israeli army.
حاولت عدة مرات طواقم الهلال الأحمر الفلسطيني الدخول إلى مخيم نور شمس، لكن طواقم الهلال الأحمر منعت من الدخول للمخيم لنقل الحالات المرضية والإصابات من داخل المخيم. الجيش الإسرائيلي وكعادته دائما يمنع الطواقم الطبية بل ويعتدي عليهم بل وأطلق النار على سيارات الإسعاف التي حاولت الدخول إلى المخيم عدة مرات، وما زلنا لحد الآن نحاول الدخول للمخيم لإخلاء الحالات المرضية والإصابات من الداخل.
Paramedics are struggling to coordinate with the Red Cross for evacuations amidst the chaos.
ننسق مع الإخوان في الصليب الأحمر، لكن هذه المحاولات عدة مرات باءت بالفشل. بعد التنسيق وبعد التحاور مع الصليب الأحمر يحاول طواقم الهلال الأحمر الدخول لنقل الحالات المرضية والإصابات من داخل المخيم، لكن جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وكعادته دائما يمنع هذه الطواقم ويعتدي عليهم في أغلب الحالات.
The raid represents one of the largest scale operations in the camp since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas conflict in October. Tragically, the toll of the conflict continues to rise, with the Palestinian Health Ministry reporting that at least 469 individuals from East Jerusalem and the West Bank have lost their lives to Israeli fire since the conflict's onset. Agency report, Republic TV.
And time for a short break, viewers. On the other side, Aam Aadmi Party ups the ante against the hard jail admin. Says letter by DG seeks specialist doctor for Kejriwal is a farce.
Co-powered by Simpolo Tiles and Bathware.
In the India Today Best Universities 2023 survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi and National Law School Bengaluru.
With over 1,12,718 startups igniting innovation, driving digital growth, over 800 million internet users are bridging distances and strengthening bonds across the globe, making India the 3rd largest digitalized country in the world, accounting for around 46% of the world's real-time digital transactions. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
Supreme's over 9,000 and more plumbing and drainage products and water tanks are made from high-quality raw materials and innovative designs. Supreme Total Piping Solutions, with you for a lifetime.
With over 1,12,718 startups igniting innovation, driving digital growth. Over 800 million internet users are bridging distances and strengthening bonds across the globe, making India the third largest digitalized country in the world, accounting for around 46% of the world's real-time digital transactions. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand, brings you the latest breaking news update from across the country only on Republic TV. And I'm Samiksha Srivastava.
Good afternoon, viewers. We are live and breaking this Sunday afternoon, and I'm Rakhta Mishra with you. Let's get started with all the top stories making headlines this hour.
If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today.
Speaking exclusively to Arnab, Iran Crown Prince calls Joe Biden a weak leader.
That the people of Iran would be able to tell the whole world and demonstrate to the whole world that unlike this regime that is constantly blackmailing you, that is taking ransom money to liberate hostages, and you pay the price for that,
Iran Crown Prince stares into current Iran regime, claims the regime taking money for hostages.
देश दुनिया के बड़े बड़े ताकतवर लोग मोदी को हटाने के लिए एकजुट हो गए हैं।
Prime Minister Modi makes a big claim in Chikkabalapura, says Big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power.
अनेकांतवाद यानी एक विषय के अनेक पहलुओं को समझना, दूसरों के दृष्टिकोण को भी देखने और स्वीकारने की उदारता वाला आस्था की ऐसी मुक्त व्याख्या, यही तो भारत की विशेषता है.
Prime Minister Modi marks Mahavir Jayanti with an address from Bharat Mandapam, says spirituality is Bharat's soul. Aam Aadmi Party ups the ante against the hard jail administration, says letter by the DG seeking specialist doctor for Kejriwal is a farce. Massive blow for Rahul Gandhi days ahead of voting in Wayanad. Congress District Committee General Secretary jumps the ship to BJP. All right, we start with news coming in from Kerala. Now, big blow to Rahul Gandhi. It's coming in from his constituency of Wayanad, which is set to witness a sizzling three-way poll fight in a few days from now. It's a big setback for the Congress party as it signals a shift in the political landscape. Wayanad District Congress Committee General Secretary PM Sudhakaran has resigned from the Congress and joined the BJP. In fact, he has said that Rahul Gandhi has been inaccessible for quite some time to the people, and that is what he has said while he quits the Congress, joins the BJP. Also challenged Rahul Gandhi to announce that he will not contest from Amethi.
Leaders in Wayanad too are leaving the Congress party, and whether it is a top leader of the Congress party who leaves or whether it is a district level leader, they all have the same complaint, the same problem, that Rahul Gandhi forget being accessible to the common man, forget caring about his constituency Wayanad and visiting it enough for the last 5 years. In fact, he not only takes people for granted, he takes his own party workers for granted, and they cannot even have access because he is a Shahzada, he is a Yuvraj, and therefore nobody has access to him. He does not understand their problems or listen to them or have even time for them because he's busy with other things.
So that was the BJP now, of course, targeting the Congress over this. Remember, we just had the Prime Minister also, we just saw on Saturday how Prime Minister Modi had taken a swipe at Rahul Gandhi, saying that he's just lost from Amethi and the Congress's quote-unquote Sahibzade will lose the Wayanad parliamentary seat this time also. And he also said that Rahul sees a problem in Wayanad and he's waiting for the voting, and he will look for a safe seat because after Amethi he will have to leave Wayanad as well. That's what the Prime Minister had said during his campaign also. All right, my colleague Akhil is joining us live. Ashwin, in fact, is joining us live from on the broadcast for more. Ashwin, it's of course a setback coming in for the Congress party in Wayanad for Rahul Gandhi. Already there have been so many questions being pointed at him when it comes to Amethi. There is immense pressure, right ahead of the election, but this only adds to the miseries of Rahul Gandhi there. But also questions do, come up that why has the district in charge right now, quit right ahead of the polling?
Well, this is the same question which has been asked at large. What has happened is a very important party worker who has got over 4 decades of work experience in Wayanad at the grassroots level, a district committee member who's a state secretary and the DCC state general secretary, KM Sudhakaran, has resigned. Now, that essentially means he will bring along with him a large number of loyal Congress workers, which were otherwise sitting on the fence. And when I spoke to KM Sudhakaran on record, he was telling that there are more people who is fed up with the inability to reach out to Rahul Gandhi during a time of crisis. Remember, Wayanad had been going through reeling with many crises, including the human-wildlife conflict, where large number of people have lost their lives. And despite all the crisis that district is going through, including a lack of a medical hospital, and many other issues that plaguing the district of Wayanad. Rahul Gandhi being inaccessible to even a district general secretary is something that is shocking, and that too just 6 days before an election certainly sends a very strong signal which is not good for the Congress party. This is what the BJP is saying, and certainly BJP has got one more grassroots level worker to its credit to work in Wayanad, who will be supporting Prime Minister Modi in this upcoming second poll of elections that is going to take place in Kerala. Rakshita.
Absolutely, of course. And there have been so many questions already with, an indie partner already turning foe for Rahul Gandhi. We've seen the kind of war of words have been exchanged between Pinarayi Vijayan or Annie Raja, campaigning against Rahul Gandhi. This does not, quite well spell well for the opposition in Wayanad, in a state like Kerala, where you have two alliance partners fighting against each other, and one of them don't even have their own house in order.
Well, this is another issue that has come forward. In fact, we had seen Rahul Gandhi, who was hand in glove for campaigning with the CPM in Tamil Nadu. For instance, in Gudalur, where A. Raja is contesting, 1 hour later, when he reaches the shores of Kerala, he completely takes on the CPM chief minister by even telling to an extent that why isn't the central government not arresting Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, whereas other chief ministers have been taken on by the central agencies. And what we have also seen is this war of words where the chief minister of Kerala, the CPM missionary, also taking on Rahul Gandhi. All this is happening, so the paradox situation of the India alliance has definitely come forth. It is interesting, Rakshita, because this comes at a time when Kerala is going to poll, and here we see an ally partners fighting, and during the time of media and social media, there is no geographical restrictions, and the messaging what these parties are giving and the India alliance seems to be a paradox which is difficult to explain, which the Congress party will also find it difficult to explain, because here we see Rahul Gandhi taking on the chief minister of Kerala, and the other hand, chief minister also directly attacking Rahul Gandhi by saying that the Congress party is favouring the BJP.
We have to take a pause here because I'm being joined by the BJP national spokesperson, Advocate Shri Padmanabhan, on the phone line. Mr. Padmanabhan, how do you, react to these developments coming in? Sudhakaran, who is, it's a long-time worker of the Congress party, is a Wayanad District Congress Committee General Secretary, quitting just days ahead of the polling in Wayanad, and he joins the BJP, saying that Rahul Gandhi has been inaccessible.
Yes, what he is saying is 100% correct. Rahul Gandhi has visited Wayanad only 9 times during his tenure as the Lok Sabha member. The 10th time he came was to file his nomination for this election. See, Wayanad is a district which has been enlisted as aspirational district by the central government. It is a backward district. So, special attention has to be given to Wayanad by the sitting MP. But unfortunately, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has no time for it. The programs under aspirational district program has to be implemented by the joint initiative of the district collector, the district magistrate, and the sitting MP. But Mr. Rahul Gandhi has no time for it. Then again, I will tell this Rahul Gandhi's attendance in the Lok Sabha is 51%. The private bills piloted by him is 0 in numbers. Only 8 discussions he has participated, and only once he has talked about Wayanad. So why the people of Wayanad need such an MP, such a person who has no time to spare for this constituency? See, what happened in Amethi, you all know. Amethi was a neglected constituency. We all thought that it is a VVIP constituency. But Raebareli and Amethi were suffering. See, Raebareli got an AIMS during Narendra Modi's period. Amethi got a government medical college during Narendra Modi's period, after the exit of Rahul Gandhi. Now, Sonia Gandhi has left to Rajya Sabha. Rahul Gandhi has come to Wayanad. Now, after 5 years, the people of the voters of Wayanad are dejected, and they are very unhappy. And you can count on me on 4th. You can expect Rahul Gandhi being defeated from Wayanad.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Shri Padmanabhan, for joining us with your thoughts on this story. So that is the latest we have right now. Viewers, a big jolt coming in for Rahul Gandhi in Wayanad right ahead of the elections. A massive setback for Rahul Gandhi as, first of all, we see India Alliance, opposing each other, India Alliance partners fighting against each other in Wayanad. And now we have Congress's house not in order once again, and this just right ahead of the polls. Now, viewers, last year, a group of political parties came together to form the India Alliance, INDIA, and to defeat the BJP. They came together. They echoed patriotism, vowed to save Indian democracy. Now, months later, they cannot even save their own selves. The alliance is falling down. There's infighting among the parties, and no glue can help them stick together. The split in India is wide open. Here's a report.
As far as the NDA is concerned, we are not the sort of party that has our feet in multiple boats. Once we make friends, we stick to those friends.
That was National Conference Chief Omar Abdullah pledging his support to Congress. But that was also February. 2 months have passed since his friendship talk. And the bond between India Alliance, especially Congress and NC, seems to have fallen apart. In fact, Omar made it clear that the only reason the two parties were coming along was to defeat the BJP.
But the truth is that sometimes for a bigger objective, small sacrifices have to be made. If the bigger objective is to win seats back from the BJP, Jammu, Udhampur and Ladakh, then if it is necessary for the National Conference to enter into seat-sharing understanding with the Congress, our doors are open.
Now, National Conference leader Chaudhry Akram has said that there is no difference between the Congress and the BJP.
नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस जैसे मैंने कहा, इसके बगैर जम्मू कश्मीर को बचाने वाली कोई जमात नहीं। ये नहीं कि आज मैं नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस में आया, मैंने कांग्रेस को भी देखा, पीडीपी का तो आपके सामने है।
Last year, after Congress suffered defeat in Madhya Pradesh, Omar took a dig at the grand old party.
मैं क्या नहीं सकता हूँ ना, जिस तरह इंडिया अलायंस का इन स्टेट इलेक्शंस में हाल रहा, अगर आगे जाके भी यही हाल रहेगा तो हम शायद बच नहीं पाएंगे। समझ में नहीं आता, या तो कांग्रेस पूरी तरह से मध्य प्रदेश में ग्राउंड सिचुएशन को समझ नहीं पाई, नहीं तो क्या जाता अगर वो अखिलेश यादव को 5-7 सीटें दे देते, क्या तूफान होता। वैसे भी क्या जीता उन्होंने, फिर नहीं जीत पाए ना। अगर अखिलेश यादव को 5-7-10 सीटें दे देते, मुमकिन है कि थोड़ा और हमारा बचाव मध्य प्रदेश में हो जाता, नहीं किया। नतीजे आपके सामने हैं।
With the split in India Alliance now wide open, will it be able to test the waters and stand toe-to-toe against the BJP?
And now let's take a look at some excerpts from Prime Minister Modi's rallies in this buy trap.
रूप से कई विशेष संयोगों को भी जोड़ते हैं। ये वो समय है जब भारत अमृत काल की शुरुआती दौर में है। देश आजादी के शताब्दी वर्ष को स्वर्णिम शताब्दी बनाने के लिए काम कर रहा है। हम दुनिया को ये बताते हैं कि वैश्विक संकटों और संघर्षों का समाधान भारत की प्राचीन संस्कृति में है, भारत की प्राचीन परंपरा में है। इसलिए आज विरोधों में भी बटे विश्व के लिए भारत विश्व बंधु के रूप में अपनी जगह बना रहा है। और बहनों, दशकों तक हमारे देश ने भी भ्रष्टाचार की त्रासदी को सहा है। हमने गरीबी की गहरी पीड़ा देखी है। आज देश जब उस मुकाम पर पहुंचा है कि हमने 25 करोड़ देशवासियों को गरीबी के दलदल से बाहर निकाला है। आपको याद होगा, मैंने लाल किले से कहा था और अभी पूज्य महाराज जी ने भी कहा, यही समय है, सही समय है। मुझे विश्वास भी है कि भारत के भविष्य निर्माण की इस यात्रा में आप सभी संतों का सहयोग देश के संकल्पों को मजबूत बनाएगा, भारत को विकसित बनाएगा। भगवान महावीर के आशीर्वाद 140 करोड़ देशवासियों का और मानव मात्र का कल्याण करेंगे कि आज हम सत्य और अहिंसा जैसे व्रतों को वैश्विक मंचों पर पूरे आत्मविश्वास से रखते हैं। हम दुनिया को ये बताते हैं कि वैश्विक संकटों और संघर्षों का समाधान भारत की प्राचीन संस्कृति में है, भारत की प्राचीन परंपरा में है। इसलिए आज विरोधों में भी बटे विश्व के लिए भारत विश्व बंधु के रूप में अपनी जगह बना रहा है। ये भारत ही नहीं जो इति नहीं अपरिमित में विश्वास करता है, ये भारत ही है जो नीति की बात करता है, नेति की भी बात करता है।
Iran Crown Prince stares into current Iran regime, claims the regime is taking money for hostages. And Prime Minister Modi makes a big claim, says big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power. We get you all that and much more on the other side. Stay tuned.
In just a decade, India has transformed into a digital powerhouse. From classrooms to clinics, farms to finance, digitalization is revolutionizing every aspect of life. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
صواريخ العدو الحمد لله على الأرض الله سبحانه وتعالى لعنة الله عليهم. ضربة هنا صارت
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand.
The former cricketer Sachin Tendulkar and his wife Anjali Tendulkar interacted with girls. who played football from the Yuva Foundation in Jharkhand's Ranchi. He also said that focus on education, sports and health can shape the future of the country. Take a listen in. More stories from the world of sports now. Lionel Messi scored a brace to help Inter Miami beat Nashville SC in the latest round of MLS action. Sergio Busquets scored for the other goal for Miami, heading in Messi's well-taken corner. Messi has now scored his 7 goals in 6 MLS outings. Ukraine's Marta Kostyuk is through to the final of the Stuttgart Open after seeing off the challenge of 6th seed Marketa Vondrousova. The unseeded Kostyuk has now beaten 3 top players in a row, with her upset of the reigning Wimbledon champion following hard-fought victories over 5th seed Zheng Qinwen and 3rd seed Coco Gauff. Nicola Spinelli claimed a victory in his Superbike World Championship debut, with the Italian's gamble over tyre choice paying off when race 1 in Netherlands was brought to a premature end. Spinelli was the only rider to choose an intermediate tyre on a drying circuit, which allowed the Ducati rider to fly into the lead on the first of the 21 laps. After earning promotion back to the Bronze Saudi League last season, Al Hazm's top flight status continues to hang by a thread following a defeat to Al Ittihad. Now, rock bottom Al Hazm gifted the win to Al Ittihad with 2 own goals, the second coming in the 6th minute of added time with the sides locked at 2-2. Facing a must-win game against Ali Reza Firozja, India's D. Gukesh defeated the French Grandmaster, with the trade of queens being the turning point in their round of 13 clash at the Candidates Chess Tournament. Gukesh thus goes into the sole lead with just 1 game left, since the game between the other joint leaders, Ian and Nakamura, ended in a draw. The city of Lima gathered to celebrate Earth Day. Some 150 volunteers are anticipated in these celebrations and planted more than 500 trees. The environmentalists chose an arid area of the city on the banks of the Shillong River, which flows into the Pacific Ocean. Volunteers aim to generate small urban forest ecosystems. Here's a report.
The United Nations has declared April 22nd as the International Mother Earth Day in 2009. Some 150 volunteers anticipated the celebration of Earth Day in Lima and planted more than 500 trees. The environmentalists selected a dry region within the city, situated along the banks of the Shillong River, which eventually flows into the Pacific Ocean. The volunteers aimed to generate small urban forest ecosystems across the region. The Earth Day Awareness celebration featured all-day events and entertainment, serving as a reminder to residents about their role in preserving the planet. Agency report, Republic TV.
Time for a short break, viewers. On the other side, we get you the Iran Crown Prince tearing into current Iran regime. He claims regime taking money for hostages. And Prime Minister makes a big claim in Karnataka, says big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power.
Are you saying that Biden is a weak leader who is appeasing Khomeini, that he does not want a bigger war to break out because there's a US election coming up and he doesn't want to be seen diverting assets from Ukraine, leading to a bigger mess?
I believe so. I mean, the result is right in front of us. The regime had access to almost $100 billion worth of oil revenue that they should not have had should the oil sanction had been implemented correctly. That extra cash, that extra money was something that, again, not only made it easier for the regime to spend it on its proxies, including the recent conflicts and all the drones and missiles had to be paid for. If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today. Why? Because that kind of leadership and strength basically makes such regimes think twice before they do anything, whether it's at home or abroad.
Co-powered by Simpolo Tiles and Bathware.
In the India Today Best Universities 2023 survey, India's #1 ranked universities in various streams are JNU Delhi, Amity University, AIMS Delhi, IIT Delhi, and National Law School Bengaluru.
In just a decade, India has transformed into a digital powerhouse. From classrooms to clinics, farms to finance, digitalization is revolutionizing every aspect of life. To celebrate the makers and shakers behind Digital India and India's phenomenal digital yatra, Republic Business is delighted to bring its inaugural Republic Business Emerging Tech Awards.
Getting you the latest coming in this Sunday afternoon. We have a lot lined up for you, especially with what is happening across the country as we count down to the second phase of the Lok Sabha polls. But first, the headlines we're tracking at this moment.
If you take the period of time where there was stronger leadership in this country during the Trump administration, between the Obama administration and the Biden administration, the number of executions in Iran was half the amount it is today.
Speaking exclusively to Arnab, Iran Crown Prince calls Joe Biden a weak leader.
That the people of Iran would be able to tell the whole world and demonstrate to the whole world that unlike this regime that is constantly blackmailing you, that is taking ransom money to liberate hostages, and you pay the price for that.
Iran Crown Prince stares into current Iran regime, claims regime taking money for hostages.
देश दुनिया के बड़े बड़े ताकतवर लोग मोदी को हटाने के लिए एकजुट हो गए हैं।
PM Modi makes a big claim, says big and powerful people in India and abroad have joined hands to oust him from power.
अनेकांतवाद यानी एक विषय के अनेक पहलुओं को समझना, दूसरों के दृष्टिकोण को भी देखने और स्वीकारने की उदारता वाला, आस्था की ऐसी मुक्त व्याख्या, यही तो भारत की विशेषता है.
PM Modi marks Mahavir Jayanti with an address from Bharat Mandapam, says spirituality is Bharat's soul.